NFL, Jordan Love with this backwards pass and a backwards knee. Turns out it's an MCL sprain. He'll be out 3 to 6 weeks, although according to Matt LaFleur, still a chance he sees the field on Sunday. Daniel Jones finished off that game, much to the chagrin of plenty of Giants fans. Hear what Danny Dimes had to say about people who, well, they might have had a different nickname for him after last week's game. No such issues for Tariq Woolen and the Seahawks defense that put on a pretty strong effort against the Broncos in their opener. So what's in store for week 2 against the Patriots? We'll ask Reek himself when he joins us right here. Welcome inside with the Insiders alongside Ian Rappaport, Judy Batista, Mike Garafolo. I am Tom Pellicero. Week 2 of the NFL season is officially upon us, and it's a week in which, as I mentioned, Matt LaFleur is still not willing to say yet that Malik Willis is going to be his starting quarterback. That's where we begin in Green Bay, where LaFleur has, since Monday, declined to rule out Jordan Love, saying in part today he's going to do everything he can to be out there. We'll give him the week, barring, though, some type of miracle of modern medicine sure seems to be tracking for Malik Willis to get his first start in Green Bay just a few weeks after he was acquired in a trade from the Titans. Here's what Malik Willis had to say about that possibility.
Just trying to put in as much time as I need to feel comfortable and just make sure that whenever my number is called, I'm ready. Whether Jordan can go or he can't, just try to be ready regardless, because even if he can go, I have to be ready, just as last week,
You mentioned all these different offenses that you've had an opportunity to learn in the league. Has that helped you for this kind of quick turnaround with this offense? And what is the secret? What's the key to learning an offense on the fly?
I mean, I can't say it hurt, but more than anything, it's just getting reps with those guys. And, football's football at the end of the day. And you just kind of find the carryover and connect the dots for yourself and try to communicate with the coaches and where the crossover was, if it's messed up or if it's not, you know what I mean? And just try to see if we see it out the same set of eyes.
Malik Willis has 3 career NFL starts, Ian. 1 and 2 with the Titans back in 2022. No touchdown passes, 3 interceptions in those games. He's got a world of ability here, also having to get a crash course. I would anticipate Matt LaFleur has, a game plan about the size of a pamphlet here. Hey, figure out what he does well, find a way, ride that defense, and ride that running game. What do you anticipate with Malik Willis in Green Bay?
Well, first of all, I do anticipate Malik Willis being out there. I know you guys all do, too. Matt LaFleur doing what I think a lot of coaches do, which is keeping the door open for an injured player who obviously wants to play, knowing that it is almost certainly not going to happen. So the anticipation is that Malik Willis will be the starter this week and probably the next several weeks. So this is a daunting task for Malik Willis. And just consider where he came from, right? Like, coming out, I think a lot of us thought he was going to be a first-round pick. He was not. He was a third-round pick, more of a developmental quarterback than anything else. Then earlier this training camp, he was in a battle in Tennessee for the number 2 spot with Mason Rudolph. Ended up not winning that, got shipped to Green Bay to kind of restart his career. He lands in a great place. Matt LaFleur is very, very good at this. In fact, so much of what we see from Jordan Love is obviously Jordan Love's ability, but Matt LaFleur and that offensive staff teaching him. They have their work cut out for him with Malik Willis, and not just because he's been up and down in his career. He's only been there 2+ weeks. Getting him to function in this offense is going to be a challenge, but you mentioned the natural ability. I mean, Malik Willis certainly has an arm. He can run. He is athletic. If the play breaks down, he can kind of take it into his own hands. There are things there that he can use to his advantage if he doesn't have 100% grasp of the playbook. It is a challenge. It is also an unbelievable opportunity for Malik Willis to restart his career in Green Bay.
Well, Tom, you said it. I mean, it is presumably going to be a very scaled-down playbook going into this game. You would think that they would probably take advantage of his legs, put him on the move. I can't imagine they're going to ask him to air it out a ton, maybe put some plays in to get some nice short passes in there to get into a rhythm and to keep the defense back to maybe open up some running lanes. And then they are going to rely on the fact that the Packers are a really good team. Lean on the defense, run the ball, play good special teams, and basically just ask Malik Willis to make a few plays and not make any catastrophic errors. That's a formula that the Packers can win with. And clearly the fact that they did not bring in another veteran quarterback to try to get somebody up to speed suggests, first of all, that they think Jordan Love is going to be back on the shorter side of the time range, and that they think they can piece it together with Malik Willis and get enough out of him, and that he is not going to make mistakes, that they can win a few games while they wait for Jordan Love.
Unfortunately for Malik Willis, Baker Mayfield ruined it for everybody playing on short notice when he showed up and played like 5 minutes later for the Rams to beat the Raiders in that game 2 years ago. He had certainly more starting experience to draw upon at the time than Malik Willis does, for sure. Yeah, Tom, you're right. I mean, you know, a thin game plan right here and just play to his strengths. If you got to make the same call multiple times in the game, you do that. You do whatever you have to do to make sure that Malik Willis is comfortable. You hope your defense shows up. I mean, a lot of times the defense, we know what's happening on the other side of the ball. We got you. Okay, put it on us. So I expect a spirited defensive performance from the Green Bay Packers here, knowing that they've got to keep this team in the game and make sure that there's not too much pressure on Malik Willis to do too much.
It is the home opener for the Packers on Sunday against the Indianapolis Colts. Packers fans have an extra brat, maybe an extra beer, and buckle up because it is going to be interesting. Meanwhile, the Bengals travel to face the Kansas City Chiefs this week as they try to rebound from a pretty surprising loss in Week 1 against the Patriots. The social media, doctors, and detectives had a lot of thoughts about Joe Burrow flexing that wrist at times as he comes back from a season-ending surgery a year ago, though Burrow does not seem overly concerned about his status. Ian, what do we know?
What we know is that Joe Burrow is healthy, right? I mean, not just he told us he's healthy, but he is healthy. Sounds like he's throwing it well. And if you judge from just the way the ball came out of his hand during the game, he looks like Joe Burrow of old. I do expect him also to look better as the season goes on. What's interesting here to me is not just that it almost feels like Joe Burrow has to reprove himself to everyone. I mean, that's been sort of the discourse here. It's like we all forgot how good he is. Missed last year with a really, really serious wrist injury. Took a long time to come back. I know it was not 100% in the spring. It's almost like people want to say, like, are we sure this is still Joe Burrow? The other thing is, when you have an injury, when you have a serious injury, you have surgery, it's not going to feel like it did last time. He can be 100%. He can be absolutely cleared, no issues at all, and the wrist still doesn't feel normal. Just like if you have knee surgery, the knee doesn't feel normal. That is just regular and being what it's like. So the fact that Joe Burrow has to keep flexing it and keeping it warm, making sure it's still connected, that is okay. I would expect this team to still be very, very good, and for eventually some of these doubters and questioners to be like, oh, okay, he's still the same guy.
Didn't see any video of Bengals fans hanging over the fences outside the loading dock at Paycor Stadium to heckle Joe Burrow. Did get video of the same thing happening to Daniel Jones outside MetLife Stadium after last week's game. We won't play you the audio here, but fair to say there were a few things said to Daniel Jones that, I don't know, adult man maybe shouldn't say to another adult man in any setting here, but that's where we are, and here's what Daniel Jones had to say about, let's just call it a little bit of the criticism he's faced coming off Week 1.
I'm not a fan. You know, they're upset and frustrated, and we're frustrated too. So I understand that. I'm not easily offended. I understand, you know, how it works, and no, I got to play better. We all got to play better. I feel like I've been doubted plenty for a long time, and I dealt with that time and time again, and done a good job with it. So I think my mental toughness is in a good spot, and I'm not concerned about that.
You can call Danny Dimes, Danny Pennies all you want, Judy. You really should call him Danny Millions, because there are millions of guaranteed reasons to believe that Daniel Jones is going to get every opportunity to continue playing for the Giants through the course of the season. He's also a guy who's coming off of a torn ACL. What did you make of the performance and also the reaction to it?
Well, first of all, Daniel Jones is a much better person than I am, because I would certainly not have reacted as well as he did to the way fans behaved, which was just trash. I mean, as you said.
What would you have done, Judy?
Adults should not be talking to, ridiculous. Adults should not be talking to other adults that way, nor should children for that matter. Anyway, obviously Daniel Jones has to play better. The whole operation has to be better. No facet of the Giants game worked the way they wanted it to work. We should note this. Malik Neighbors just popped up on the injury report today as limited in practice with a knee. So that certainly bears watching, and that sure won't make Daniel Jones' assignment against the Commanders any easier. They have to get this offense into a rhythm. He's got to get some completions. The offense looked nothing like we thought it was going to look when we were in training camp, when we kept hearing about that they wanted to push the ball downfield and get some big chunk plays. None of that. It was a very conservative sort of short passing game that Brian Daboll called. The defense did not look particularly good. Nothing about the Giants was impressive last Sunday. If there is solace to be taken, it is that even when the Giants have had years that they've struggled, they've typically had good results against the Commanders, and that's their opponent this weekend. So this is a chance for them to right the ship and maybe quiet the fans down, at least for a week.
And again, Daniel Jones, the first game coming back from his knee injury. Kyler Murray knows what it's like to come back from a significant knee injury. He had a good chunk of time, missed part of the 2023 season. He's been fully healthy, but did pop up on the injury report on Wednesday because of a knee issue. The Cardinals listed him as a full participant in practice, so no cause for concern at this point there. There is, though, some concern for, I don't know, some fantasy players who might have overdrafted Marvin Harrison Jr. Why aren't you throwing him the ball, Kyler?
See, man, I wouldn't say they were just taking him away. I think, I'm just, as a quarterback, obviously, you're going through your reads. Sometimes the ball goes to him. But that's not, it's not my job. Obviously, I have a sense and a feel for guys when they don't get the ball and when they're, when they are getting the ball. But, I leave that up to Drew. Drew always, he tells me don't worry about that type of stuff. Just keep playing your game and, get the ball to where the ball's supposed to go.
I can remember covering Justin Jefferson's first NFL game. I did a bunch of reports on game day morning about, hey, Kirk Cousins talking him up to me. This guy's going to be a superstar. He had like 2 catches for 23 yards, and everybody was going, oh, yeah, nice start. The next week, he absolutely goes up. It takes a minute sometimes here, Ian, and I wouldn't expect anything other from Kyler Murray than saying, I'm going to throw the ball to the guys who are open.
Jamar Chase ruined this for everyone, I feel like. I mean, coming out and being just a superstar his rookie year made us all think that it's normal if rookie receivers come out and have an immediate impact. It's not normal. More normal is like this right here, where you're a star in college, you go out, you try to do the same thing in the NFL, and it's not quite the same. And, in college, Marvin Harrison was plenty fast. In the NFL, it seems, just based on the time speeds that have been out there, has not played as fast, maybe because he's still figuring out what to do, where to go, what the play is, all of the things. I mean, look, there have been plenty of times when he is open. He's always going to have times where he's open, right? And I think for Kyler Murray and for everyone else, what you need to do, I mean, look, he's clearly right open there. Kyler missed him, okay. I think what he means is he needs to go through the reads and figure out who's the best person to throw to. And look, Tom, you mentioned it. The fact that people drafted him in the first round of fantasy just amps up the anticipation and excitement. But it is not normal for a rookie receiver to be a superstar right away. Everyone needs to breathe.
So Ian says Jamar Chase ruined week 1 for all rookie receivers. Mike says Baker Mayfield ruined the quarterback short notice start for all future quarterbacks here. Hassan Reddick's ruining a few things, including his bank account right now, losing $800,000 per game missed, as he still has not, at this point, reported to the New York Jets. Watching the game the other night, you also can certainly make the argument that maybe it ruined the pass rush, at least to a certain degree, for New York. Mike, there's all kinds of financial reasons at some point for Hassan Reddick to show up. To this point, he has not heeded those financial reasons. Where do we go from here as week 2 looms?
We continue to go down a road in which the Jets are not willing to negotiate till he gets in, and he's not willing to come in until he gets a new deal, and those things don't add up to him showing up anytime in the near future. Both sides seem to still be dug in right now. You look at that game the other night and say, yeah, you could have used some edge help. Could have also used some defensive tackles that were playing better inside. Could have also used some offensive linemen. I mean, like, it's not like the Jets were only Hassan Reddick away from winning that game, basically. And I would say the way the schedule lines up, if the Jets can win some of these winnable games in the next couple of weeks, that's only going to further their case to be like, look, we're just going to go with what we've got. We're focused on the guys who are here, which is the phrasing that Robert Saleh used a couple of weeks ago when asked if he was reaching out to Hassan Reddick. So it doesn't look like there's an end in sight in the near future. As we get closer to, I don't know, the trading deadline, and this is still going on, perhaps we'll have a different conversation then. But right now it is just continuing what it's been for Hassan Reddick and the Jets.
Well, but here's the problem. If the Jets, first of all, have shown no signs at all of being willing to trade him or move on from anything, but if they do, how could a team trade for him knowing they don't want to give him an extension, which the Jets have not been willing to do because he hasn't shown up? But it's a transfer of the same issue, and I don't know how much he'd be worth to another team. Anyway, the best case for everyone is that Hassan Reddick shows up for the Jets. And you're right, they definitely had some pass rush issues there. If they win a bunch of games, if the defense looks good, and it should, it's a really good defense, they got a good coordinator, there's a lot of good things there, then it doesn't help Hassan Reddick. If they go out and lose this week, and it looks like they need edge help, maybe the leverage shifts to him a little bit. And we have seen some, not a lot, but we've seen some, players benefit from a team having a slow starter if they hold out. I mean, obviously the Emmitt Smith example from a long time ago is the one that comes to mind. I also remember Cam Chancellor holding out, Seahawks defense being good and being like, all right, I guess I'm just going to come back. Still no end in sight here, but the way it plays out on the field will have an impact on how it eventually gets resolved.
Well, the Jets sacked Brock Purdy twice, but both of the sacks came from the secondary, not from the defensive line. And we can get into the run defense. That's an entirely separate topic. That's an even bigger issue than the pass rush. Having said that, they've got 3 what look on paper to be winnable games coming up. And certainly if the Jets exit September 3-1 or 2-2, first of all, they're going to feel a whole lot better than they do coming off that beating they took in San Francisco. But second of all, as you said, then the leverage sort of shifts to the team again. It certainly would not be with Hassan Reddick. We have been saying this for a month. At least this is one of the oddest situations we can remember seeing. He seems to be dug in. The team seems to be dug in. And now that the games have started, it really is going to be the results that you would think week to week shift the leverage. It's hard for me to imagine how this ends unless something swings dramatically in one of the directions.
Jets at Titans on Sunday in Week 2. I never want to say there's a must-win game in Week 2, but if the Jets start 0-2 going into a Thursday night home game against the Patriots, watch out. The back pages will be in full-on panic mode. The trade deadline, by the way, November 5th, a date you should remember for absolutely no other reasons. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens trying to bounce back from their own Week 1 performance here in Week 2. They're going to take on the Ravens. Let's go deep inside that matchup. What to expect from number 8, the reigning NFL MVP, next on The Insiders.
Lamar Jackson back at practice this week on Wednesday. I think there was a little bit of a scare on Monday. Lamar Jackson wasn't there. Everyone's like, where is he? Where is he? Is he okay? Okay, well, fine. He was at practice Wednesday, not even on the injury report. I would say dealing with general soreness, just considering how many times he was hit the previous week, something for sure that we will be keeping our eye on through the season. One thing we don't need to keep our eye on is how unbelievable Lamar Jackson is. Don't take my word for it. Listen to Davante Adams tell us all about it.
Going into my 21 season, I felt like that was an area, broken tackles was an area that I really wanted to focus on and push and make better. And I was literally finding myself watching Lamar Jackson highlights, like, in my locker before the games. Like, dude changed the game. He's the best, in my opinion, best ball carrier ever. You know, no matter what position you want to talk about, I don't think anybody's as big of a threat to carrying the football. So, and obviously he's worked really hard to develop in the other parts of his game as well, and you've seen that come a long way too. So. He's a huge threat. Somebody you got to be accountable for out there, and make sure you know what he's doing, and getting on the film of that. And obviously, I don't have to worry about that. But yeah, he's a hell of a football player.
Not bad for a running back? Is that where I said that? No, Davante Adams means nothing but praise for Lamar Jackson as I bring in my good friend Steve Weiss, who will be actually at that game covering Raiders-Ravens this week. All right, we heard Davante, who, I mean, that was about as good a praise as you could possibly get from an opponent. We heard Davante talk about Lamar Jackson and his unbelievable talents. We saw it on the field against the Chiefs. It was a lot of Lamar Jackson, a lot of carries, a lot of throws, a lot of hits. Is this an issue for the Ravens going forward? And how can they kind of like ease back on him a little bit on Sunday and going forward?
Well, it's not necessarily an issue, but look, he had 16 carries. He threw the ball 41 times. That's 57 touches as the primary ball handler, so to speak, out of the 74 plays the Ravens ran. That's a little too much. So I spoke to tight end Isaiah Likely today, and he said, first off, Davante Adams hit the nail on the head with Lamar being such a dynamic dual threat. You have to account for him in every way when he has his hands on the ball. That said, people with the Ravens are telling me they've got to get number 22, Derrick Henry, a little bit more involved. He had 13 carries in the opener. They say it is still a work in progress getting Henry going because he's not used to playing with a quarterback that's primarily out of the shotgun and the pistol. Doesn't seem like a big hurdle, but they want to get the run game going, and they're facing a Raiders defense that surrendered 176 rushing yards against the Chargers in Week 1. So they are confident they can get an uptick in the ground game without Lamar being the primary ball carrier, Ian.
All right, so I heard Derrick Henry, more touches, good for me for my fantasy. My son Max also has him in his league. Good for him as well. Took note of that. You mentioned Isaiah Likely. Isaiah Likely was a massive story in the real world, but also in the fantasy world. Everybody was clamoring to claim him on the waiver wire. Auction leagues, I know, we're offering up just as much money as possible to get this guy. We saw his connection with Lamar Jackson last year when Mark Andrews was out. Man, it's like it accelerated. What do we expect from the connection of Likely and Lamar this season?
Yeah, you don't necessarily know if coming up next week he's going to get the 12 targets that he got in Week 1. And a lot of that was due, and this is speaking to Likely, the Kansas City Chiefs paying so much attention to Mark Andrews. In other words, they said, hey, if Isaiah Likely beats us, we'll let him beat us. Well, he almost did, if not for having a toe out of bounds on the final play of the game. That said, Likely was telling me they've got to do a better job of spreading the wealth. It was just a game situation where he was the receiver who broke open with the time of the play you're seeing here towards the end of the game. And then when they went to the up-tempo offense, he was the guy who sprung open more. He figures if they, and this is Likely saying, if they get more people involved earlier in the game, that will take attention off some of their primary people like Derrick Henry and Mark Andrews and open up the field more for those guys to do what they do, the perennial Pro Bowlers. But Isaiah Likely, he is part of the fabric, especially with as much two tight end as the Ravens run. So don't sit him down on your fantasy team, Ian. I think Likely is someone who's going to continue being a part of this passing game.
And my fantasy team, believe me, I didn't get him on waivers. I tried. Maybe I didn't offer as much or I just didn't have the priority. But I tried in 2 different leagues. Didn't get him. Kind of a bummer, but I'm sure my opponents will really be excited about his domination going forward. Anyway, Steve, great stuff, great insight on Likely and from Likely. Cannot wait for that game on Sunday. And now let me send it over to my good friend, Judy Batista.
You know, the biggest story of this week is that Sarah Walsh and I will actually be together at this game, Jets at Titans. Obviously, the Jets, as you just said a few minutes ago, Tom said it, this is about as big a must-win game as you could have in week 2 for the New York Jets. The Tennessee Titans coming off a tough loss, tough second loss. Let me bring in Sarah Walsh, joins the show. Sarah, obviously it did not end well, but the Titans defense looked pretty good there in week 1. And I wonder what kind of challenge is Aaron Rodgers going to face with this defense?
So you look at what the Jets did, and despite coming off that loss, there clearly is not a sense of panic. They feel like there were some really good things that they could take out of that game. Aaron Rodgers in particular was really pleased with his pass protection. He did say that there were too many, however, 3 and outs. There was a lot of time for him standing on the sidelines. He said, you know, that obviously has to change. They need to keep the ball moving there. However, we understand that's a really, really good Niners team. But what they get in Tennessee, when you look at the record, you go, okay, well, they're 0-1. The Titans defense a week ago was really good. In fact, it was the defense that allowed the fewest yards in the entire league in week 1, just 148 total yards allowed to Chicago. The Titans had a 17-0 lead, and the Bears stormed back and won that game, but it wasn't because they scored a single offensive touchdown. Now, I was talking to Quandre Diggs, the Titan safety, and he said, we very much understand, however, that taking on an NFL rookie who's getting his very first NFL snaps is going to be very different than taking on Aaron Rodgers, who Diggs called a legend. He said, this guy has seen everything you can possibly throw at him. He's going to adjust. We are going to have to adjust. But when I was talking to Rodgers' offensive tackle, Morgan Moses, today, and I said, give me a positive that you take out of that game from the offensive side of the ball, he was very specific, and probably because this was shown to these guys, he said, you go back to the first quarter in that game against the Niners. He said, we had a 12-play, 70-yard drive that resulted in that Breece Hall touchdown. And he told me, this is what we can be. This is what we are going to be. And that drive that you saw there, he said, that is going to be the standard. Now they're going to have to take that standard, Judy, of course, and travel to Nashville with it.
Well, Sarah, you mentioned the Bears came storming back, not really because of their offense. One of the reasons they came storming back is because Will Levis threw a very unfortunate interception. He said he threw the game away. And Brian Callahan has had some very interesting remarks about the offense's play since then. What do they want to see out of Levis in week 2 to sort of indicate where he is after that shaky performance?
Clearly, Aaron Rodgers is going to get all the headlines, but if you're a Titans fan and in Nashville on Sunday, all eyes are going to be watching how that Titans quarterback, Will Levis, responds. Clearly, what they want him to do is be smart with the football. And you mentioned some of Callahan's comments. He at one point said, because of the lead, because of how good his defense was playing, he said, if we would have gone out there, obviously, in the second half and just punted on 1st and 10, he said, we might have won that game. So he didn't really gloss over the mistakes that Levis made. And he said, I understand that those mistakes can weigh heavily on a guy. He said they even weigh heavily on me. But if you want to turn your attention to the positive, he said that Levis is as tough as they come. He responded well. He has responded well in practice this week. I spoke to his receiver, Tyler Boyd. Boyd told me that he reached out to Levis on Monday after that game, and he said, I just wanted to reach out, tell him we have his back. We have all the confidence in the world with him. And he said the mental part of Levis is there, but he has to know that the guys around him believe in him. He said that they know that that game is over. They cannot get it back, but they do believe things will be different this week. Also on offense, which will be a little bit differently, is DeAndre Hopkins was on the field. It was for all of 17 snaps. Callahan this week said that you'll see his workload increase this week. He said where they're going to be this Sunday as opposed to last Sunday with Hopkins, who has been battling a knee injury throughout this preseason and over the summer. He said there should be a big difference there to give Levis some options. But obviously all eyes on Levis to see how he responds to clearly a game that he would like to have back from week 1.
feels like very high stakes for both teams for a week 2 game. I look forward to being there with you, Sarah. Look forward to being in Nashville. Thanks very much for joining the Insiders. And when we return, Tariq Woolen is going to join the guys to talk about Seattle's stars. They travel all the way east to play the Patriots this weekend. Tariq Woolen coming up next on the Insiders.
Pretty good start for the Seahawks last week against the Broncos, taking on a rookie quarterback in Bo Nix. And, well, you know what to throw at these guys. Tariq Woolen in particular, along with Devin Witherspoon, the two of them locked down in week 1. Certainly a good sign as they move forward into the 2024 NFL season. As you see some stats right there, a 14.6 passer rating allowed. If they can keep that up, that might be a record. We're pleased to be joined right now here on the Insiders by Tariq Woolen, with us from Renton, Washington, along with me, Tom Pelissero, and Ian Rappaport. Tariq, always good to get a win out of the gate here. How are the vibes around that Seahawks building right now?
It's a lot of high energy and stuff like that. It's amazing to start the season off with a win for sure, and it builds that confidence, and it's a step in the right direction. So we're just going to build on it, and, this week versus the Patriots, we're going to go out there and play hard and, play as a team.
Tariq, we showed that graphic coming in of the kind of tandem that you have been, you and Witherspoon both, two of the better young corners in the NFL, and obviously showed that last week. He's really good. You're really good. Do you guys play off each other? Do you compete with each other? Do you help each other? How does that sort of partnership work and play out on the field?
Honestly, we just play off each other, He's a more vocal guy. He's an energizer, and, he brings a great energy to the room. So, us two being out there together, it's a lot of fun for real. And whenever I make a play, he cheers for me. Whenever he makes a play, I cheers for him. And, we just build off each other, and it helps our confidence, just me and him, but also as a DB group.
Tell me about that defense as a whole, Reek, because obviously, you played good football under Pete Carroll. You were a Rookie of the Year finalist a couple of years ago. Now, Mike McDonald's changed up a lot of things from a schematic perspective. Obviously, there's things culturally that are different too. But in terms of just that defense, what's he asking you to do, and why so far does it seem like it's been pretty effective?
Just because, defense starts up front, and I feel like, our D-line, this game, they played very well. And Coach McDonald's defense, the D-line's supposed to thrive, and it showed this week. And whenever the D-line plays well, we get to play off of them, and it makes the secondary look good. And, it just go hand in hand for real. So in this scheme, the big guys make it go, and us on the back end, we just do our jobs and we finish it up. And whatever gets to us, we clean it up.
Reek, you've had an interesting trajectory, late-round pick, burst onto the scene as a rookie. I mean, really became one of the best young corners in the NFL, despite the fact that I'm not sure a lot of people honestly had heard of you as a rookie. Last year coming, I know you had the knee injury, but, a little more of a struggle last year. I was there in training camp. I know Tom was as well. Heard the same thing. This guy looks really, really good. What has been the difference coming back this year, maybe compared to last year? And obviously your play in week 1 showed it.
Honestly, just getting those reps. Last year I didn't even get to do training camp, and I feel like as a young player, you got to get those reps. You got to get that routine down for real. And training camp is a key role for real, especially when it comes to being on the team. So I got to do training camp this year, and prior to training camp, I did work my butt off. I was in Florida and I was training hard every day. And even the little things like just being in the weight room, getting my strength together. And then stuff just like on the field, like my technique and press and just being in off coverage, being comfortable to be able to do that. I made sure I honed in on that a lot this off season. And so far it's been showing throughout training camp, and it showed week 1. And I'm pretty sure it's going to show the rest of the season as well.
Reek, you're 25 years old. You're wearing like the current Seahawks logo with the neon green. Ian and I are old enough to remember when those throwbacks you wore last week were like just the normal Seahawks uniform. Honestly, top 5 in the league to me. What do you guys think in the locker room about that look you had last week?
Honestly, can you repeat that though? I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry.
No, just the throwback uniforms. What do the guys in the locker room think of those?
Oh, yeah, everybody loves them. We wish we can wear it every game for real. I know when I play Madden, shoot, I wear the throwback uniforms every game. So I know the guys love it. And, whenever we do put those jerseys on, we take a lot of dignity into it just because, those are the uniforms that we wore back in the day. And, previous Seahawkers from back in the day, Seahawks players, whenever they see us wearing them now and we do great things, go out there and make plays, and we actually win in them, I'm pretty sure they actually smiling just because it took a minute for these jerseys to come back.
I mean, just so you know, when we took a little bit of a quick poll on this show, which is the best throwback uniforms, that was my favorite, just so you know.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, another question for you. I mean, how could they not be? And Tom's saying it's top 5. He's in there, too. One of the things I was wondering, and I kind of heard that one of your teammates, I think it was DK, kind of took a social media cleanse. And I know you kind of changed the way you do your social media as well. It can be rough out there. People say a lot of things. We all hear it. Tell me how you've handled social media and how you've handled some of the feedback from, some of the fans, I guess.
Honestly, I just learned not to care for real. I love social media. Even my friends know that. I like to go on there and watch funny videos. I like to look at Instagram reels, and I got even group chats with my friends just so we can send and share funny videos. But as a young player, I just had to learn you got to ignore that stuff. No matter how good you play or how bad you play, they're gonna have something to say anyway. So. You just got to learn to clear all that out. You know how good of a player you are. You know yourself better than anybody. So you can care less what somebody else at the house got to say, just because they sitting behind the phone or saying whatever for real. So I just learned to tune that out. And, I just got to be myself. And me being myself, that's all that's good enough for me. So I don't care what anybody would say on social media. And I feel like I've been doing great at that.
That leads me into maybe the most important question of this interview. On all the Seahawks platforms, you're Reek, R-I-Q. On X, you are at Tariq Woolen. On Instagram, you're also at Tariq Woolen, but then the screen name says Reek with 2 Qs. Can you clarify when we have the lower third? It says Reek right there. Is that correct? What are we actually going with these days?
Oh, yeah, no, Reek is good. Reek is good. You know, I just chose Reek just because that's what my friends call me. You know, it's a nickname, and, you know, I just think it's cool, you know, just to have a shorter abbreviation. I don't know. I just thought it was cool for real. But, you know, I don't trip if you call me Tariq or Reek, you know what I'm saying? Because, you know, I'm going to respond, and I know that's my name. You know, that's what I was born with. So, you know, I'm not really a picky guy. As long as I know you talking to me, you don't call me nothing crazy, then we good. So, you know, I really don't trip if you call me Reek or Tariq.
All right, so since we're friends, we'll call you Reek. I like that. So you guys are playing the Patriots this week. They brought it last week, you know, obviously with sort of surprise win, but physically as well. Ramondre Stevenson carried the ball, I think, 100 times or so. That's just an estimate. What are you expecting facing this Patriots team this week?
You know, they're going to be a physical team. And even their head coach even said, you know, they're going to run the ball and you got to try to stop it. So teams like that, just like simple as that, you got to go in there with your hard hat and you got to force them to play one-handed, you know, and we got to go out there and execute. We got to go out there and be disciplined and play off one each other and trust each other, you know, especially when it comes to teams that do run the ball or do gap scheme and certain run plays. So we're just going to have to go out there and stop the run, and then once we do that, we can force them to play one-handed. And, you know, me as a DB and even in our DB room, we love when teams are able to pass the ball because we love to cover, you know. So we just got to force them to play one-handed, and then we'll be good.
You can call him Tariq, Reek with 2 Qs. I would just call him a guy you probably don't want to throw at on Sundays. Reek, thanks a lot for being here, man. We really appreciate the time.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
All right. Justin Fields in line for another start with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Though Russell Wilson says that calf is feeling better and better. What's the latest on the status of the Steelers QB1? We'll discuss it right after this on The Insiders.
Welcome back to the Insiders. That's Malik Willis out on the practice field for the Green Bay Packers. He is expected to start this week against the Colts because Jordan Love got hurt in Brazil. Even though the Packers are leaving the door open to the possibility, it seems kind of slim that Jordan Love could play this week, but it looks more than likely it's going to be Malik Willis, at least for this week. But Coach Matt LaFleur was at the podium. He talked about his quarterback situation, including Jordan Love.
He's going to do everything he can to be out there. He's been out there at practice and been engaged, knows every play call, is always coaching up Malik, coaching up Sean, is doing a good job with it. You want your best players available to you, and when they're not, then it can be challenging, especially a guy that has been here a short period of time, but it's one that we're going to embrace, and we're going to do everything in our power to put him in the best possible position, and he's working really hard.
All right, it is time for our front office view. So we have our front office guru, Mark Ross. That's Mike Garafolo. I am Judy Batista. Mark, let's start with the Packers situation. What kind of uphill battle is this for Malik Willis to pick up this playbook with so little time with this team?
Yeah, that's always the tough part about, you usually see a veteran quarterback that's been around, you sign him this late, you don't worry, like, they can pick it up. The vernacular is different, the wording is different, but they can do it. Malik Willis, his whole situation coming out of college was that he was so raw and he was so underdeveloped, and he had to play a lot to learn the nuances of playing the quarterback position in the NFL. Well, since he's been in the NFL, he has not played much either at Tennessee and even last week. So it's what do you get from Malik Willis? Yes, he's going to study hard. Yes, he's going to prepare, but there's just only so much volume that he can grasp or really understand at this stage in his career. He's still learning, and now you throw him into an entirely new situation. That's even tougher. So what does Malik Willis do really well? He can run. He can run around, so I would expect to see a lot of design plays for him using what he does best, which is running. You don't have to think when you're running, so I would expect that for Malik Willis and the offense there. Of course, he's going to have to throw the ball to make plays, but it's going to be super important for that Green Bay defense to really step up and hold the explosive Colts offense. We've seen what they could do last week to keep the game in check, because the Eagles offense, I know they're one of the best in the league. They did whatever they wanted to do against that Packers D, so they really got to step up to help that young man out.
Mark, you're talking about Malik Willis and the Packers defense. A lot of these same concepts can be applied to Justin Fields and the Steelers. Now, it was a bit of an odd situation last week when midway through the week they figured out that Russell Wilson wasn't going to be able to go with that calf issue. So they already had a package of plays for Fields. They expanded upon it. They tailored the game plan toward him. Again, a guy who can do a lot with his legs, made sure he was comfortable, and leaned on that defense to play well, and they did. Again, a lot of the things you're saying about Malik Willis. Well, now they've got a full week for Justin Fields here, as Mike Tomlin made it clear early in the week that he was in line to start. Your thoughts on Fields' debut, what to expect in week 2, and the question that people are asking me, does he have a shot to keep Russell Wilson on the bench? Because I believe that he does.
Well, 100%. And from the minute they signed Justin Fields, I said this guy's a better option than Russell Wilson. But just because at this stage in his career, Russell Wilson was completely limited. He's mostly checkdowns. You know, that's what he does now the last couple years. And back in his day, and the MVP level Russell Wilson, it was moving around with his legs. I always thought Justin Fields gave them the best opportunity to win because he can still make plays with his arm and with his leg. Is he 100% consistent? No. But the flip side, we talk about the Packers D. The Steelers D can dominate teams, as they did last week. They can absolutely dominate teams. And when you are in that position with the Steelers D dominating teams, now on the flip side for Justin Fields, he's been there. When we were in camp there, Judy, you came the day I was there, they were already happy with Justin Fields and the ability to make plays. So the Russell Wilson injury, to me, is a blessing in disguise for the Steelers offense to make them play Justin Fields, because he gives them so much more than what Russell Wilson could provide. In that, look, you don't have to score 30 points. You don't have to throw for 300 yards. All you have to do is hang back, make a few key plays in the game, which he did last week, while our defense dominates. That's the Steelers' way. Mike Tomlin has shown he can win like that. Now you got a guy who can make plays better than the quarterbacks they've had there the last few years.
Well, obviously in Cincinnati, they want the quarterback. They need the quarterback to make plays. I think the biggest upset of week 1 was the Patriots beating the Bengals. Slow starts are routine. I'm sorry to say routine for the Bengals with Joe Burrow in the last few years. But certainly this one was especially surprising. The offense really struggled. There's speculation about him flexing his wrist, although he is healthy. He practiced fully during training camp. Mark, what do you make of the struggles of the Bengals offense and Burrow?
Right. While the game was in real time doing game day live there with Rhett, we're like, this is the upset of the week. But in retrospect, like, well, the Bengals always lose. Joe Burrow's 1-4 in opening day game. So they should have just like, let's get to week 2 or 3 before they get going. And then, of course, as you mentioned, the wrist and Gatorade bottle gate there with Joe Burrow with he can't lift the Gatorade bottle, but he's coming out saying he's completely healthy. And I would expect, look, they've shown they can go into KC and win. He's 3-1 against Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow is, and the Bengals. So you know their psyche is, yes, we can go in there and win. I know we struggled week 1, but we can get this straightened out. And Joe Burrow and that organization has that confidence. So I would expect them to rebound. This is a tough task, of course, against KC, but I would expect them to get better, get T. Higgins on the field, get Jamar Chase in a better mindset. I think we'll see a little turnaround from the Bengals.
Mark, I was in Atlanta on Sunday. We talked about Fields and the other side of that game. For Kirk Cousins in the Falcons offense, he just didn't pass the eye test. And I know a lot of folks are looking at his footwork and saying, well, he's coming off an Achilles, doesn't look like he's right. I mean, you can tell us whether or not you saw that, but I would also be curious what your thoughts are schematically, because this offense had Drake London, Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts. They've got weapons, and yet Pittsburgh never really seemed to be threatened all game long by Kirk Cousins in this passing game.
Well, let's give Atlanta a little pass in that they're playing one of the best defense and maybe the best defense in the league. So we'll give them a break on that. But as you mentioned, Mike, the scheme, Kirk Cousins has always been best out of play action. At Michigan State, he was like that. And since he's been in the NFL, under center, play action, get it out there. They were out of the shotgun 90+% of the time in that game. So it was like, we got this guy who does this really well. Well, let's do the exact opposite in there. But could that be that the Achilles is still not 100% and he's not confident getting up under center, handing off? You got to have a lot of movement to implement that, especially when you got 2 big-time running backs that you can hand it off to. So we'll look for this week if they get more into that. What Kirk Cousins does best is under center shotgun, if under center play action. And if he's still in the shotgun a lot, there may be something more to that. He's not 100% healthy.
Yeah, which is going to be a problem because you've got an Eagles team that was seemingly scoring at will at times against the Packers. They're going to put points up. This offense has to be able to go toe-to-toe with them on Monday. Mark Ross, thank you very much, man. Appreciate it.
Oh.
Take care of business up front. We're all behind you guys. Defense, fly around. Up. Hey, as a team, we do this. Let's go. Hey, team on 3. 1, 2, 3, team. Take care of business up front. We're all behind you guys.
Herbert expended so much energy there with that surprise speech that maybe that's why he only threw for 144 yards as we welcome in our Taylor Bisciotti. Taylor, you spend a lot of time around that Chargers team. They're coming off of an impressive debut, albeit one in which they predominantly ran, which fits what Jim Harbaugh wants to do. This week they take on a Carolina team that had the opposite experience in week 1. Tell me about LA and what you're expecting here as we move forward.
Well, Tom, the Chargers looked exactly like you'd expect under Jim Harbaugh. It was a run-first, physical game. Look, Jim Harbaugh has done this before with the 49ers. He went out and took Joe Alt, the first rounder out of Notre Dame with the 5th overall pick. And then he went and scooped up 2 running backs, 2 former Ravens running backs in J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. And on Sunday, you saw it in full force. He was playing a physical game and running the ball first. They had 176 rushing yards as opposed to the 2023 season where they averaged 96 rushing yards per game. And then you saw them physically wear the Raiders down in that second half. So much so that Harbaugh had Scott Matlock on the field for 18 plays, the defensive lineman, as a fullback. And that was not just a week 1 experiment. He's actually changed his number from 98 to 44. So you're going to see him be able to play both ways. So you're already seeing the differences under Harbaugh on the field, but there's also off the field differences. This week, they travel to Carolina, like you said, but instead of coming back and coming home to LA, they're going to stay in Carolina, in Charlotte for the week as they prepare for week 3 against the Steelers. And I was at the facility yesterday, and normally guys, don't like to be on the road that much, away from their routines, away from home. But Harbaugh has them so fired up to be in that hotel room. You would think that they were going away to sleepaway camp with board games, snacks, all the things. They can't wait to be there because they said they want to focus on football. It's almost like an extended version of training camp. And just another way to show you how Harbaugh is wired differently, take a look at this video of him and Herbert before the game getting him fired up. They're trying to go 2-0 for the first time since 2012. Whatever Harbaugh is selling, the players seem to be buying in.
I love that Herbert, listen, Jim Harbaugh's been doing that forever. He did to his 49ers quarterbacks. He did it at Michigan. Herbert just starts getting tapped. He's like, is this the hug? Are we? No, we're not hugging. You're just going to hit me now back here too.
Yeah,
okay,
I should have watched more tape.
We'll figure it out.
And known that he was going to do that because I thought it was going to be a quick dab, but it wasn't.
Week 1 across the board. Taylor, thank you very much. Look forward to talking with you again soon on The Insiders, which you can find 5 days a week throughout the regular season. Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday. We're live on NFL Network, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, also on NFL Plus. Mondays, you can find that show at 6 p.m. on YouTube. And then Thursdays, right here, NFL Plus, the NFL channel on fast streaming platforms and on YouTube. If you don't know what fast is, well, go ahead and Google it. It's free apps on your TV. You can't miss us. You also can get it on the podcast wherever you download your podcast. Stick around. More Insiders after this. It is National School Photo Day. Can you guess this, Insider? Well, this is the easiest question of all time. Look at that face, Rappaport. There's Garofolo, who that's actually, fun fact, that's a toupee. Wow. That's actually a toupee on 5-year-old Mike right there. Judy Batista, that's senior year, Judy?
It is, yes. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Hasn't changed a bit, and oh yeah.
God.
Look at this guy.
Backstreet Boys.
Now that's a good look right there.
I can't believe you didn't have
big sweep
frosty
across.
tips. How did that happen?
I have never frosted my tips, but I had the big sweep across. I Biebered before it was cool. What?
Wait, you never had frosty tips?
I did.
That seems fake.
Also, it's frosted, not frosty.
No good.
No, I never had him. We're back tomorrow on NFL Network. Demario Davis is going to be on the show.
See Mike
See you then.
again.